Coming to you from the mountains and the plain. The only conservative voices brave enough to push back. This is the Conservative Daily Podcast with Joe Otto.
That's what the Second Amendment was designed to do. If you're going to do something to nullify or take away my rights under the Constitution, come get it.
Max McGuire.
When you look at politicians on the left, they need to convince people that they are victims.
A resistance to the resistance. And now your hosts, Joe Otto and Max McGuire.
And welcome back to another edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. My name is Max McGuire. Filling in again for Joe Otto, who's not feeling well, is friend of the show, Keith Jones. Keith, how's it going?
It's so super, and it's Friday.
It is. So we got to get a couple things out of the way first. The first member of the Robert Mueller investigation is now going to plead guilty. So that's interesting. So that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And we're seeing subpoenas start to get issued from Congress.
Yeah. It's like advocacy works. But at the same time, right, you have to watch the way in which these stories are reported, because I read what I will call a flowering press release from ABC talking about the FBI lawyer who altered evidence, created evidence out of whole cloth, right? And they made sure to mention in the middle of that quote-unquote press release that they call a story that it really had not a whole lot to do with the FISA applications or the warrants or really anything else of substance. So they made sure to downplay the actual criminal act of a lawyer changing somebody
Funny how that goes.
Wasn't
a
plant, but made them a plant, and then we kick off the Russia hoax.
The interesting thing about that is the guy, let me make sure I say his name right. I don't want to get fact checked. Hate to have that happen, right? Kleinsmith.
Yes,
he's a lawyer for the FBI. He was working with Robert Mueller's team, and he was responsible for putting together a lot of the documents that were getting forwarded over to the FISA court. And we're not going to be talking about this all day today, but just to put it out there that in order to have a FISA application, a secret surveillance warrant, you have to keep going back to the court and proving that the person you're spying on is actually doing the things you suspected they were doing. If you cannot prove that your investigation is turning up dirt, actual proof of crimes, you're supposed to end the investigation, because at that point there's no warrant. It's warrantless. What this guy Kleinsmith did is he fabricated an email. He emailed a CIA contact asking whether a Trump associate was a known CIA asset. And the CIA said, yes, he has worked for us in the past.
Correct.
He then edited that email and sent it to the FISA court and had it instead say, no, he is not a CIA asset.
Correct.
So he fabricated evidence. So he lied. He lied to a court. It's amazing how they say, oh, that had nothing to do with the investigation. It's just a process crime. They don't use the word, but they're calling it basically a process crime. But when Trump officials are caught up in process crimes that they never should have even had possible to go against them, because there never should have been an investigation, the media paints it completely differently. So I want to get that out of the way first, because that's a development. It's not what the podcast is about today, but it's an important development. The first of hopefully many of Robert Mueller's goons are now facing criminal charges. So very, very good news.
Yes, 100%
Today we're going to be fact-checking Biden and Kamala's rollout speech. Since we have been fact-checked ourselves for one word, I feel it's necessary to fact-check the leading Democrat politicians in the country, the Democrat presidential candidate and vice presidential candidate, because they spent 20, 30 minutes lying, just flat out lying. And you don't see the fact checks. You don't see them getting throttled on Facebook. They're allowed to lie with impunity. If we get one word wrong, we get threatened with the ban hammer. So we're going to go through that. We're going to play not the entire clip, but most of their speeches, to go through just how many lies, how many doozies they told. But before we do, we have to mention that today's podcast is being sponsored again by ACE Scholarships. ACE Scholarships is an organization that gives out scholarships to low-income students who want to be able to go to a private or a charter school. So they're pro-school choice. So we like to partner with organizations that we believe in and support, ACE Scholarships is one of those organizations.
Absolutely.
Since 2000, they've had a vision to give every child quality access to education for school, in grades K through 12, and they've since awarded over 42,000 scholarships across 8 states. So if you want to learn more about ACE Scholarships and help them with their school choice mission, you can go to acescholarships.org, and there's a link in the description if you want to get involved with their annual luncheon, which is one of their big fundraising efforts, but it has to go online this year. So check out the link in the description and support that good organization. So let's just dive right into this, because Kamala Harris is a liar. Joe Biden is a liar. I'm not gonna. I was kind of going both ways whether we were going to fact check Biden. Most of what he said was wrong, but that just might be the dementia talking.
Right. Yeah.
So in the interest of elder rights, I don't want to appear ageist. I would hate to fact check someone for something that was not a lie. It's just him slowly losing his mind. So we're not going to fact check too much of Joe Biden. But because he repeats the same lie over and over again, and it's such a doozy, we are going to cover one of his lies. Let's go ahead and play cut 1.
Donald Trump, a man who went on to say, when asked about what he thought, he said there were very fine people on both sides. Quote, very fine people on both sides. No president of the United States of America has ever said anything like that.
Interesting. It's interesting because there's 2 elements to this. One, Donald Trump did not call white supremacists fine people. We're going to play the unaltered, unedited clip from a couple years ago that Joe Biden just continues to lie about. Mm-hmm. And Joe Biden is wrong when he says there is not anyone seeking the presidency who is called white supremacists fine people. We're going to get to that in a second. But first, let's play the unaltered clip of Donald Trump just to show how big of a liar Joe Biden is. Let's play cut 2.
You're putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
On both sides, sir? You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Kill the person. Heather hired Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as you. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
Well, no, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner? So will George Washington now lose his status? Are we going to take down, excuse me, are we going to take down statues to George Washington? How about Thomas Jefferson? What do you think of Thomas Jefferson? You like him? Okay, good. Are we going to take down the statue? Because he was a major slave owner. Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history. You're changing culture. And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. Now, in the other group also, you had some fine people, but you also had troublemakers.
Oops.
So we played that in its entirety because when Joe Biden, and we'll play the Joe Biden clip one more time, when Joe Biden claims that Donald Trump said white supremacists were fine people, he's lying to you. Yep. Because immediately after, 40 seconds after he said there was fine people on both sides, Donald Trump clarified that no, that is not to be interpreted to mean that white supremacists and neo-Nazis are fine people. He said they should be condemned totally.
Correct.
But Joe Biden is selectively editing. If we did that, we would be labeled fake news. We would be fact-checked. We'd be labeled false. We'd be taken down off the internet. But Joe Biden is allowed to twist Donald Trump's words and deliberately cut out what he said 40 seconds later to clarify, all in the name of politics. Let's play Joe Biden's clip one more time, and then I'll get your reaction on it, Keith. Let's play cut one.
Donald Trump, a man who went on to say, when asked about what he thought, he said there were very fine people on both sides. Quote, very fine people on both sides. No president of the United States of America has ever said anything like that.
So he said there, he's lying, right? He's looking, he said there were very fine people on both sides, and insinuating that Donald Trump was saying that white supremacists were fine people, even though he said, no, they should be condemned totally. So Joe Biden is lying. Let's get your reaction, and then I'm going to play a clip I don't think you've seen before, Keith.
All right. So remember, I said this a couple of days ago. Whenever the media presents you with something, you have to find the source clip like you just did today, Max. You got to go 30 seconds before the little cut that they gave you and 30 seconds after. Mm-hmm. Anybody who spent 2 minutes of their life watching what just happened, again, that was years ago, but watching what happened in that room where he was stopping a yelling mob of reporters and explaining and doing his best to answer the question about the travesty that happened, right? You realize that he's answering questions that are being thrown at him in live time. And so his answer about fine people was in reaction to the people that were there that originally started the protests were upset because he says it, right? You're trying to change our culture. You're renaming a park, right? And then he goes on to ask these reporters who have no problem, right, pushing the narrative that it's okay to rename parks and statues because they say so. Well, where does it stop? He actually alludes to where does it stop? None of that ever gets played because it would crush the narrative. So they play a statement that he does actually make, but it's out of context, and they apply meaning that he didn't actually mean because he wasn't answering that question at the time. Well, we talked about this.
Not only did he not mean it, he vehemently said the opposite.
Right, he actually said the opposite.
And I'm not talking about the
You led off today with a lawyer who fabricated evidence by making it say the opposite of what it actually said. This just happened. They made him out to be saying something that he actually said the opposite of, right? And you're 100% correct. Were we to do that to, actually, we could get away with doing it for Donald Trump. If we did that to any Democrat in writing, right, we would get fact-checked false. We went through this yesterday, right? We went through this yesterday. So they're not telling you the truth. They want to gin up anger, right? So they take things out of context, then they provide false context, and then uses real words. And if you're so lazy that you can't actually go and look at the source material, and then all you're going to do is let that rile you up, right? I don't know how I help you. I think my general rule in life is whenever I hear something from the media, or somebody sends me a story, or somebody sends me a link, I go and I find the source material, the unaltered source material, and I watch 30 seconds before, 30 seconds after. Yeah. If I need more time, frankly, I have enough time in my life if I actually want to use this as a toolkit, in my opinion.
Yeah. So right now, I'm on Lead Stories, seeing if they have fact-checked Joe Biden. They haven't.
No.
But we're not going to talk too much about this. I'm posting in the comment section an excellent Newsweek column that was out a couple days ago by a lawyer named John Eastman. He's the professor of law at the Chapman University and a senior fellow at the Claremont Institute, going through the 14th Amendment and whether or not Kamala Harris would count as a natural-born citizen given that interpretation. And it's not a radical interpretation. Anyone who thinks that anchor babies, quote-unquote anchor babies, should not be U.S. citizens, it's the same kind of legal interpretation questioning whether Kamala Harris cannot be president or not, right? He's going through it and explaining what he believes. The left went crazy over it. Our friends at Lead Stories that we fact-checked yesterday, Keith, would you believe that they have declared anyone who says on Facebook that Kamala Harris is not eligible to be president, even though it's up for debate? It's something that's mirrored by real scholars, real constitutional scholars debating the purpose of the 14th Amendment. Would you believe that Lead Stories has just labeled that as false? And would you believe that the same person who did it is our girl Alexis, the entertainment and gossip reporter?
Yes, I would actually believe that, Max, because that sounds exactly like something that she would actually do. Look, you're being told, we are being told right now, the setup, if you can't see the setup, right, just look a little bit harder. The sailboat will come out. Just look a little bit harder, okay? We are being told and set up right now with 80 some odd days left before the election. Any criticism, any discussion about policy positions or whether or not, right, that it's the right decision for you as an American to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, any differing opinion about her fitness for the office is going to be declared as racist, sexist, xenophobic, some birthers, ageist.
Yeah.
I mean, just use a word, put ist after it, right? And then that's going to be the pejorative applied to you, right? Because you dare to think for yourself.
Yeah, law school professor comes out and says, hey, I don't think that the founders really intended anyone to come to the country, give birth to someone, and that person's automatically a citizen. I don't believe that they really intended that. But if you comment that on Facebook, it will now be labeled as fake news because an entertainment reporter at Lead Stories disagrees. Someone who is a talking head on television programs talking about royal weddings and royal engagements and the like.
Yeah.
That's the world we live in. You can go to law school, you can be a fellow at a bunch of different organizations, you can state your opinion, but if Alexis over at Lead Stories disagrees, in between her hard-hitting posts on Meghan Markle, if she disagrees, you're fake news. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it was very funny. But I mentioned that I think I had a clip that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
I want to play Joe Biden's statement one more time and listen to the end what he says about no president ever saying something like this before. Let's play cut one last time.
Donald Trump, a man who went on to say, when asked about what he thought, he said there were very fine people on both sides. Quote, very fine people on both sides. No president of the United States of America has ever said anything like that.
No president of the United States has ever said anything like that. But Keith, would you believe it that if Joe Biden becomes president, he would be a president who said something very much like that? Let's play cut 3.
I'm so excited.
The senator made a very moving and eloquent speech as a son of the Confederacy, acknowledging that it was time to change and yield to a position that Senator Carol Moseley Braun raised on the floor of the Senate, not granting a federal charter to a organization made up of many fine people who continue to display the Confederate flag.
So Donald Trump's this racist for saying there was very fine people, both for and against tearing down the statue. And he says no president has ever called white supremacists very fine people. And he hears footage from decades ago. Joe Biden, when he had his real hair, he didn't have the plugs yet. Joe Biden saying that the sons of the Confederacy are made up of very fine people.
Yep.
And listen, I'm sure that they are. I'm not saying that they aren't. I'm just saying that Joe Biden is a hypocrite. Joe Biden is a liar. Joe Biden is trying to create a picture of himself that isn't true. He said pretty much you look at anything Donald Trump has ever said, any position he's ever held, Joe Biden has pretty much held that same position at some point in his political career.
Absolutely.
Like the man ran for Congress as an anti-Vietnam War candidate. And he rubber stamped pretty much every single war or armed conflict that the United States has been in since he's been in office. I think there were 2 that he didn't agree with, and one of them was the first Iraq War.
Yeah.
I just think it's hilarious that Joe Biden says no president has ever called white supremacists fine people. It took me 5 seconds. I literally just typed in Joe Biden, Confederate, fine people, right up at the top. Yeah. It's not hard, people.
The internet's
it's not like these are
thing.
like hidden links. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
It's incredible. So Joe Biden's a liar. We're just going to go out and anything that isn't a lie, incorrect, we're just going to chalk it up as that's what happens when you are in the mid to late stages of dementia, as one of our guests
but Max,
last week.
Here's what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have in common. This is their political philosophy. Put your finger in the air, and whichever way the wind is blowing, that's what you say. That's where you go, right? We're going to go through and fact check Kamala Harris, right? Her and Biden, this is the thing that make them 2 peas in a pod, right? They will say whatever they have to say. I said this yesterday, right? We will have tape of her saying things about healthcare for illegal immigrants. We'll have that, right? Yeah. She says it, right? And then the next day she's talking to somebody else and she says, no, I don't want to do that, right? So no matter what you say, you're going to get fact checked with the other thing that she said. It's like the most brilliant scheme that Democrats have come up with. Here, let's go and let's say
it's not a lie. It's changed her mind.
Yeah, let's say two competing, completely opposite things. Let's make them my position, and then when you criticize me for one of them, then there's audio and video of me saying the other, right? And so then fact check false.
Yeah, it's it's funny. It's really funny that it's never a flip-flop with them. They just changed their mind. Yeah. It wasn't a lie. They just didn't have all the information yet. But if we leave out one word, we're a liar. Well, Joe Biden's a liar. He's also an elderly man in the mid to late stages of dementia who is losing his mind. It's that I'm not a doctor. I don't need to be a doctor to diagnose that because I've seen people in his exact same circumstance. Once you've lived through that experience with people in your life, loved ones, friends, going through dementia, Alzheimer's, other mental decline, you see that in other people, and it breaks your heart. But Joe Biden is not all there, and the moments he is there, apparently he's also a liar. Well, we're going to devote the majority of this to Kamala Harris because this was Kamala Harris's big debut on the stage. Yes. And practically everything she said about Donald Trump was a lie.
Yes.
It was either a lie or grossly misleading. Definitely rising to the level of a fact check. And yet you notice there are no fact checks out there from the independent fact checkers. No, they are too busy fact checking conservatives. They're too busy fact checking Republicans. They're too busy defending Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to dare fact check what they say. So we're going to ask you again, please hit the share button. People need to see this. We're not going to force you to watch the entirety of Kamala Harris's speech because it would hurt. It'd be painful.
It's cruel and unusual punishment.
Cruel and unusual punishment, exactly. But we are going to play a bunch of cut clips from it in sequence showing you just how many lies she told. So hit the share button, please. We're being throttled again because the fact checkers don't like what we talk about. Hit the share button, hit the like button, and leave some comments in the comment section. It helps us reach more people. Anyway, let's go ahead and play cut 4. This is Kamala Harris blaming Trump for the economic decline we're experiencing in the country today.
The president's mismanagement of the pandemic has plunged us into the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression.
That's factually false.
False.
The pandemic and the state lockdowns are what have done this. In April, Donald Trump, and I tried to pull this, we might have it later, but I don't think I pulled it. In April 14th, I believe, Donald Trump issued an order to New York to start reopening your economy. And if you don't do it, I'll reopen it for you. Andrew Cuomo came out and declared, no, it's states' rights. It's states' rights. You can't force us what to do. We're going to make sure we stay closed. Is it any surprise that we are in an economic recession when the biggest city in the country, the center of world commerce, because that's where Wall Street is, right? The biggest city, the center of world commerce, has locked everything down and is not letting barely anyone go to work. It's not a surprise. But to say that that's Donald Trump's fault when these are state actors, and knowing that when Donald Trump said, I'm going to use my executive authority to reopen the country so we save the economy, those same Democrat mayors and governors said you have no right to. It's a states' rights issue. How dare you, you tyrant? To turn around and say it's Donald Trump's fault because we are in an economic decline is ludicrous. It's also ludicrous because the numbers do not support what Kamala is saying. Let's go ahead and put up image number 2. This was shared by the White House during Trump's press conference. The housing market. This is the rebound of the housing market. The housing market, that is a V-shaped rebound. Yes, it had dramatic plummet as a result of the coronavirus, but the housing market is at where it was before this pandemic hit. What that means is people have money in their pocket, they're working enough, and they're able to buy a house. Housing market is a very good indicator of the stability and the fundamentals of an economy. The fact that the housing market is in a V-shaped recovery and is now at or above what it was before this pandemic proves that Kamala Harris is a liar. She's a liar. Let's go ahead and show the auto market. Let's go to image number 3. This shows another V-shaped recovery, not as good as the housing market, but it shows that we are on our way there. What does that mean? That means people are going back to work. That means people need their automobiles to be able to get to work. That is a great indicator of economic recovery. People say in the comment section, "Oh, Max, can we relax?" Can't relax. There's too many lies to get through, and there's not enough time. We're going 0 to 60 on this. We have to.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah.
We absolutely have to. But it's just remarkable how she is able to just claim this. If we made a claim that was this big of a lie, we'd be fact-checked for it.
Correct.
If we did it as many times as you're going to see Kamala Harris do it in this speech, we'd be taken off the internet.
Yeah.
But
correct.
because she has a D next to her name, she is given a pass.
The fun part, Max, is, so Donald Trump is both a tyrant and he is aloof and doesn't care about people, depending on whether you want his intervention in your state or you don't. All right, so depending on what you're talking about, we'll just blame it on Donald Trump because we can have it both ways. So if Donald Trump was in charge, we're a constitutional republic, right? So the states have rights. The 10th Amendment is a real thing. And so if you're like the Eurozone, okay, then you can make edicts from the central government place, right? And you can shut everything down and you're responsible.
Yeah.
Right? But the Eurozone contracted more than the United States. And, right, we did what in July? 1.8 million jobs in July, right?
Yeah.
And then they were
People are
talking
getting back to work.
They were talking about the annualized contraction, like 30. I remember like 33%. Okay, but that's annualized, not a quarter. That's annualized.
Yeah.
Right. Goldman Sachs came out a couple days ago and said if things continue the way they're continuing, we should have a 25% GDP growth in the third quarter, annualized.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about.
And let's explain what annualized means. Annualized means that the rate that the economy grew in those 3 months, if it was to have grown at the same rate for all 12 months, you would see an annual increase of 25% in that case, or in the decline, 32% decline. But they're not looking at a 12-month window. They're looking at a 3-month window.
Right.
And as we've seen, the economy is not getting worse the way it was last quarter. It just isn't, right? I just showed you the graphs. Let's put up one more graph. Let's put up image number 1. This one was another one that Donald Trump showed at his press conference. This is showing that the United States is actually experiencing the shallowest GDP contraction out of other major European countries and zones. So you look at Austria, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, Spain, European Union, and the Euro area as a whole, all of them are seeing a worse economic decline than Donald Trump. Than the United States under Donald Trump's leadership. So to claim that Donald Trump is responsible for some economic decline, when not only is every other country experiencing an economic decline, but theirs is much worse, it's a lie.
Yeah.
You lied, Kamala. You lied.
Liar.
Okay, let's keep going down the list. Scroll up. Okay, this next one, Kamala Harris says that there is systemic racism, and she uses a very unique phrase to describe the rioters and the looters. Let's play cut 5.
And we're experiencing a moral reckoning with racism and systemic injustice that has brought a new coalition of conscience to the streets of our country, demanding change.
Coalition of conscience. Keith, for the last 2 or 3 nights, the city of Chicago has had to raise the bridges to stop the rioters from getting where they wanted to go. Just so we're clear, Chicago was the backdrop for Batman Begins.
Yes.
When they raised the bridges in Batman Begins, that was Chicago. Mayor Beetlejuice thinks she's in a Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
She's using Batman tactics. That's the coalition of conscience.
Yes.
Got to rob that Gucci store.
Yes.
Gotta go rob those ATMs.
That's how you get your reparations, Max. Did you see that, leader?
Yeah.
She said that. She said these are we don't care about this because these are reparations. You go steal whatever you want, according to
coalition
BLM.
of conscience. I don't want what happened to George Floyd was horrible. No one should ever die while in police custody. But the fact that we have experienced such rioting, such destruction, people have lost their livelihoods, and she's calling it a coalition of conscience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just a lie.
We've passed,
what we're seeing on American streets is not a coalition of conscience. It's absolutely insane. Insanity.
we've passed 80 days, right? Or we're pretty close to 80 days of riots in Portland.
75, 76,
yeah. We're right around there. That's a long time, right?
It is.
It's a long time for riots to be occurring in a city, right? And then to stand up on a podium and talk about your coalition of conscience.
So not only is she saying that there's a coalition of conscience fighting against systemic racism, but she's saying that Donald Trump is making things worse, and there's Americans are crying out for better leadership. Let's go ahead and play cut 6.
America is crying out for leadership. Yet we have a president who cares more about himself than the people who elected him. A president who is making every challenge we face even more difficult to solve.
So, gotta go 2 different parts for that, because there's 2 doozies. When she says the American people are crying out for different leadership, let's go ahead and put up image number 4. This is a Rasmussen poll that just came out. They asked people what they thought about the violence plaguing American cities. 50% of likely U.S. voters say police should crack down to stop the riots and bring the protests to an end. But if you actually look at the bottom, 72% of all voters say they are concerned about the growing level of violent protests nationwide, 43 of which are very concerned. 62% of them say the growing level of violent protests is important to their vote in the next election. So when she says that people are crying out for change, it is not them crying out to support her coalition of conscience. It's them crying out for the government to stop the rioting, stop the looting, stop the madness. So I had to fact check. You got to fact check, Kamala. You're wrong. Next part, when she says Donald Trump is making everything worse, factually inaccurate. We are giving ventilators away to other countries because Donald Trump mobilized American businesses, in part using his executive powers, to build ventilators. These weren't ventilator companies. They were car manufacturers, GE, other manufacturers building ventilators. To say that every single problem we face is made worse by Donald Trump, easily proven wrong, because there are Americans alive today because of ventilators that were created at Donald Trump's direct order. So Kamala, boom, you got fact checked.
Yeah, if we would say Democrats make everything worse, we would get fact checked false, because everything is not worse.
Everything is, yeah. And if everything's worse, it's not all their fault, it's other people. We'd be fact checked. It'd be incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But she can get away with it. Absolutely get away with it. So we got lots of these clips. Let's keep going down the list. And these are not edited out of sequence. These are sequential. We were originally only going to cover 5 of her lies, but as I'm listening, there's just too many doozies to ignore. So we cut these up so we don't have to play the whole clip, and it's easier to go back and forth to them, but these are in sequence. These are not taking out of order. This is the progression of her speech, so you can see how her speech went. In this next one, she says it's an open and shut case that 16 million people are out of work because of Donald Trump. Let's play cut 7.
The case against Donald Trump and Mike Pence is open and shut. Just look where they've gotten us. More than 16 million out of work.
So, again, that's not Donald Trump's doing. Donald Trump didn't hand these people their pink slips. Companies handed them their pink slips because the states and localities would not allow them to do business.
Yeah, the state of California. The state of California is shut down. That's not Donald Trump. That's Gavin Newsom. The state of New York, shut down. That's not Donald Trump. That's Cuomo, right? The state of Illinois, shut down. The state of Minnesota is on fire. Actually, Minneapolis is on fire. There's lots of lakes in Minnesota, so they have water, right? There are other places where people are starting to go back to work, right? And wherever you find Democrats in leadership, you will find people out of work.
Yes. So when she claimed 16 million people were out of work, I'm going to just point out that number was much higher a couple months ago.
It was.
Like much, much higher. They were talking 30, 40 upwards of 50 million out of work. So when she says that Donald Trump is responsible for 16 million people out of work, it's obvious. So she's actually right. There's 60 million people out of work now, and there would be many more if not for Donald Trump's leadership in bringing us back from this crisis.
Max, so let me ask this question, right?
Well, real quick, because we have to take a quick break.
I know, it'll be a quick question. It's rhetorical because you know where I'm going. if let's just pretend it was Biden and Harris, like this is the worst possible thing you can pretend. I'm sorry to ruin your Fridays, okay? But if they were president and vice president, would they send an executive order to all 50 states demanding that all businesses, schools, and places of commerce open?
No, they wouldn't. That's the whole point.
Right.
It's crazy. Well, we have another 10 of these doozies to go through. But we have to take a real quick break to play a little bit of a video from our sponsor, Ace Scholarship. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Last night, I had a dream. Shook me to the core. Opened my eyes, and nothing was like before. Graduation, prom, hanging with my besties, those safe faces, safe places, rooms where you would test me. 2 square meals a day, gone.
And we are back from that brief break. Again, go to acescholarships.org if you want to check them out. Great pro school choice organization. If you want to check them out, link in the description of the live stream. Okay, we got another 10 doozies to go through. Here's one of Kamala Harris blaming Trump for the fact that millions of kids cannot go back to school. Let's play cut 8.
Millions of kids who cannot go back to school.
Yep. We're really, because she's going through and there's commas in between all of these. So she just blamed Trump for 16 million people being out of work, comma, millions of kids cannot go back to school. So it's kind of a short thing, but I want to cut it up. Factually inaccurate. Donald Trump does not decide when schools open. In fact, Donald Trump is telling the schools to reopen.
Yeah.
He's telling the schools, reopen, let the kids go back to school.
Yeah.
How is it his fault that the schools are closing when he's telling them you have to open?
He told college football players to play football in the fall yesterday. I mean, you can tell. I mean, whatever. She drives me nuts.
Yeah, I know. All right, here's another cut. Blaming Donald Trump for homelessness. Let's play cut 9.
A crisis of poverty, of homelessness, afflicting black, brown, and indigenous people the most.
So Donald Trump has actually told states like California, if you do not combat homelessness, which is not just homelessness, it's also rampant drug use, defecating in the streets, right? Use needles lining the sidewalks, getting washed into the ocean, which is how Donald Trump would have the ability to intervene. If they don't take care of it, he will do it for them. But it's not his fault. It's not his fault if people are homeless in San Francisco or Los Angeles. It just isn't the president's fault, because everyone else in the country who isn't homeless prior to this pandemic were doing much better off economically. It's just factually accurate. Unemployment was at the lowest levels for every single ethnic group. Women was almost the lowest unemployment level it had ever been before the pandemic. So to say that Donald Trump is responsible for homelessness across the country, it's simply not true. Let's play this cut 10, her blaming Donald Trump for hunger.
A crisis of hunger, afflicting 1 in 5 mothers who have children that are hungry.
Food stamp rolls have declined by 7 million under Trump without any changes to the food stamp program. That was people who were on food stamps, government assistance, going off of food stamps because they had gotten a job that allows them to make enough money to care for their family and have upward mobility in our socioeconomic ladder.
Yeah.
So when she says people are hungry because of Donald Trump, actually, people are able to get off of food stamps and pay for better food, actually provide for their family because of all the jobs that were created under Donald Trump. So it's just a lie when she says mothers go to bed hungry because of Donald Trump. It's just a lie.
It's not true.
It's just a lie.
And if the teachers' unions would actually go back to work, have their union members go back and do their jobs that they get paid for, then a lot of these disadvantaged kids, right, would be able to go back to one of the few places on earth that they have where they get square meals a day. It was in the commercial from Ace Scholarships, 2 square meals, right, breakfast and lunch, right? There's so much interconnectivity to what we're talking about. This is why basically her whole entire sentence, which is a bunch of independent clauses, is false. The whole thing is false because she basically blames him for everything. So I think I know maybe Joe's sick because I think there's a bunch of wildfires in Colorado. Maybe that's what's causing
I think he's hungry. I think he's hungry, and Donald Trump did it.
I'm pretty sure that Donald Trump picked. I think there's a big one that happened in the western part of the state. There's like a big fire that's happening there. I think it started by lightning, and Donald Trump, he channeled his inner Thor, and smashed.
Donald Trump is actually Zeus.
Oh, he is.
So he actually climbed up onto Pikes Peak in Colorado and threw his lightning bolt down. That's what happened.
Okay.
That's what happened. Absolutely what happened.
Interesting.
Sherry writes in that if you want to see actual hunger, look at Cuba or Haiti. Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
When Democrat policies are taken to their ultimate conclusion,
Venezuela,
the result is that more people go hungry, not less. People are able to be lifted out of hunger by getting good paying jobs and being able to provide for themselves, not by getting their EBT card recharged every week or every month. It's just these Democrat policies, when you look at, you mentioned it, like Venezuela, when socialist policies take hold, the result is not that people get less hungry, it's that they have to start eating the rats and the dogs and the bunnies. I don't know. Yeah, it's obviously fake. It's obviously a lie. We got to keep going. This is one of the big ones. Kamala Harris claiming that the Ebola outbreak was a pandemic. Let's play cut 11.
It didn't have to be this way.
It didn't have to be
6
this
years
way.
ago, in fact, we had a different health crisis. It was called Ebola. And we all remember that pandemic.
Oh,
but you know what
idiot.
happened then? Barack Obama and Joe Biden did their job.
We all remember that pandemic. No, we don't, because it wasn't a pandemic, you idiot.
It was an outbreak.
It wasn't a pandemic. It was an outbreak. And Joe Biden wasn't even in a decision-making position. He was a vice president, so he didn't actually do anything. Barack Obama refused to shut our borders to Ebola. And people died. I think it was one American died?
Yeah, like one or two.
They started bringing people into the country. The exact opposite of what Donald Trump did. Donald Trump closed the borders to areas of outbreak when COVID-19 was just an outbreak. It wasn't a pandemic yet. Closed the border to prevent people from getting into the United States from China. Little did we know the Chinese carriers had already gone to Italy and Europe, and we had gotten a lot of it from there. So when she says, everyone remember that? No, we don't.
Yeah.
Kamala, because it wasn't a pandemic.
Because it wasn't a pandemic.
If we had said that, we'd be fact-checked, we'd be taken off of Facebook.
We'd be fact-checked with information from the WHO that calls it an outbreak. And by the way, does she even know how much more difficult it is to transmit Ebola than it apparently is to transmit the myshoronovirus, right? Just do the Google search. Vomit, feces, blood, right? Nowhere in there does it say sneezing. Wear a mask and you won't get Ebola, right? Wear a mask. No, they're not even the same thing. And it wasn't a pandemic. It was an outbreak. The WHO said so.
Factually false.
Fact check.
Factually false.
Fake.
Yeah, so we have another bunch of these to get through. Make sure you hit the share button because the fact checkers aren't fact checking her. We've literally gone through this and proved that these are lies. Sherry says that you had to shit in someone's face to get it. Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly. I mean, that's not true.
Now we have to label it explicit. We have to label it explicit now. Thanks a lot.
It's fine. It's fine. No, we're not going to label this one explicit because we're just not going to. But she's right. But there are other ways to get it. But you had to be in very, very close contact with someone else's bodily fluids to get it. Which is why it was actually hard for it to spread that far because people died before they had a chance to infect many other people. But there was an incubation period, and when Barack Obama refused to shut down our borders and we're letting people still come into the country, he risked people slipping through in that incubation period, which is what you don't want to do. Yeah. Right? So just because we didn't have a massive Ebola outbreak in the United States does not mean that Barack Obama did a good job. It just doesn't. So we're going to have to rule that one fake news as well because Ebola wasn't a pandemic and Obama did not do a very good job. This next one is a little bit complicated. It's a three-fer. Let's go ahead and play cut 12.
But compare that to the moment we find ourselves in now. When other countries are following the science Trump pushed miracle cures he saw on Fox News. While other countries were flattening the curve, he said the virus would just, poof, go away. Quote, like a miracle. So when other countries opened back up for business, what did we do? We had to shut down again.
So we got three things there. Donald Trump touted hydroxychloroquine, which was promoted on Fox News, but it was not promoted as some kind of magic drug. It was promoted on Fox News after early scientific studies revealed that it was helpful in treating the coronavirus.
Yep.
Doctors, scientists went on the show and said, hey, we've been doing this study. We've seen good results. Donald Trump saw that, probably read Anthony Fauci's paper from 2004, 2005, where he said hydroxychloroquine was effective in treating coronaviruses. He probably read that one too. And he came out and said, hey, you know what? Hopefully it works. It's not a guarantee that it works, but hopefully it works. It could be a game changer if it works. That's not touting some mystery drug that he saw on Fox News. It's actually following the early science. And the CDC and the FDA agreed with him. The reason that hydroxychloroquine, one of the reasons that hydroxychloroquine is no longer approved for use is because in order to have an emergency approval, there has to be no other viable treatment available. That's part of the way that you get emergency approval. So since remdesivir has started to become available, you can no longer claim that there's no other approved method of treating COVID-19. So that's one of the reasons that hydroxychloroquine is no longer available. And we have to say, disclaimer, to avoid being fact-checked, the WHO and the CDC does not approve hydroxychloroquine to treat coronavirus, period. Gotta say that. We cannot say, quote, hydroxychloroquine works, end quote. But yeah, no, it's a lie. And when she says other countries, while we were first to close down, other countries were allowed to reopen. What we're seeing around the world is that other countries are shutting down too. They're seeing spikes as well.
Yep.
It's not like it's hunky-dory everywhere else. Ironically, the countries that seem to be faring the best are the ones where hydroxychloroquine is widely used to treat malaria and other diseases. I hope they study that one. The countries that are seeing some of the best outcomes are the ones allowing hydroxychloroquine to be used to early treat the disease. But can't say that it works because, again, the fact checkers know better. You have to follow their lead. And even though the CDC changes their mind every couple of weeks, you have to follow their lead as well.
If only she could understand the math, right? Where you can look this stuff up online, right? I would challenge. First of all, the United States population is much, much, much larger than any European country. You've got to add multiple countries together to come even close to us, right? And no one believes anything that China says, so you leave them out, okay? I'd be willing to bet that there are only a few, maybe one. I'll do over under 1.5. No, yeah, over under 1.5, okay? That there are countries in Europe that have a better death per million rate than us.
Higher death per million.
No, what I'm saying is there's probably one country in Europe, right? One industrialized country in Europe that has a death rate per million that's lower than the United States. That's my bet. So if there are two of them, I lose. If there's only one, I win.
I don't know how many have a lower, but I know that there are ones that are higher.
Yes.
Pull it up.
Yeah, so when you're talking about, when she's talking about the performance of the United States, and they use things like cases, we're a huge country, and we do more testing than anybody else, right? When you talk about deaths, we're a huge country, right? What matters in statistics, in understanding the performance of a wide, huge, diverse country like ours, is understanding the effects on population centers, right? Deaths per million. And in that sense, I'm going to hold. I'm not looking it up. I'm staring at the screen. I'm not looking it up, right? I'm going to hold my 1.5. That's my over-under. There's probably one country in Europe that performs better than us. That's my bet.
Sorry, I'm looking at my phone. Just got an alert. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has just ruled that California's ban on any gun magazine larger than 10 rounds is unconstitutional.
Yes!
So I was just reading that.
How about
I don't know. I think that was just a panel. I don't think that was on bonk. So, but the appeals court has ruled that their 10-round magazine cap is unconstitutional. So sorry, I was just looking down.
There was a decision. There was also a decision from the Eighth Circuit about there's pro-life law in Arkansas That came out this morning too. I forget. I'll look it up. I still contend that our death rate per million is better than Europe. I still contend it.
It is. It is. So let's go ahead and play this next one that you're kind of getting at, where she's holding that the United States is worse off than many advanced countries. Let's play cut 13.
But there's a reason it has hit America worse than any other advanced nation.
Liar.
It's because of Trump's failure to take it seriously from the start.
Liar. So I'm trying to pull it up. I had it. It was a fact check. They listed off a few. They listed Portugal. They listed the United Kingdom. There were a few that had a higher mortality rate as a percentage of their population than the United States. There are also developed countries that have a higher case mortality rate as a percentage of total cases. We are not at the top of that list. We are just not. And I know that changes over time, but we still are not the top of the list. There are other advanced countries that have worse outcomes. So when she says that there are no other advanced countries with worse outcomes, she's lying.
She's a liar.
That's a lie.
Correct.
It's a lie. If we made that claim, we would be fact-checked and we would be taken off of Facebook. That's why we're doing this. We're doing this to show that the whole thing is rigged. The whole thing is rigged. Helen Kistler, I'm literally deleting your post because you're just spamming cdc.gov, nih.gov. When it comes to both cases per population and deaths per cases, the United States is not the worst country when compared to other advanced countries. If you don't stop spamming your fake news, I'm going to ban you from the channel. Just wanted to let you know.
Fake news.
Just wanted to let you know, Helen. So we got to keep going. We have a lot more cuts. This is lying about Donald Trump resisting expanding testing, masks, and social distancing. Let's play cut 14.
His refusal to get testing up and running, his flip-flopping on social distancing and wearing masks, his delusional belief that he knows better than the experts. All of that is reason, and the reason that an American dies of COVID-19 every 80 seconds.
So that's just false. That's just false. When you make a claim that says someone is the reason that every 80 seconds someone in America dies from a disease, that is just false. It is just false. Not only is it false, it's a scumbag thing to say.
Yeah.
To politicize people's deaths. Those are people's mothers, their fathers, their loved ones, their grandparents. To say that Donald Trump is responsible for the fact that someone statistically dies every 80 seconds, when Andrew Cuomo's the one who ordered COVID-positive patients to be put back into nursing homes, and we know that around half of all coronavirus deaths in the United States were people either living in nursing homes or long-term care facilities. We know the average age of someone who passes away from COVID-19 is 78, older than the average life expectancy in the United States. And when you say that's Donald Trump's fault, you're a liar. You're a liar, Kamala Harris. You're politicizing people's death. You're trying to politicize people's suffering. Yeah, Helen, you said we're dishonest. No, we're just going to ban you, Helen. You're just, everything I just said is accurate. So you're entitled to your own opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. Helen, as soon as I scroll up to your name, you're getting banned. No, it's just... Yeah, bye-bye, Helen.
Poor Helen.
It's true. And when she says that Donald Trump resisted testing, we have – I want to find the last time the United States did not have the most tests of any other country. I want to zoom in. It's around March 24th. March 24th is when the United States took over as the country that has had the most tests performed, and we've never looked back.
Yeah.
So South Korea was leading for a long time because they got the virus before us. And they're a smaller country. They were able to put together all their tests. They're also a country that deals with SARS and other kinds of Chinese respiratory illnesses on a much more they do
regular
more often,
basis.
right?
Yes.
More regular basis. The United States, we had to gear up from nothing. And the last time the United States was not leading the world in testing was March 23rd. On 24th, according to allworldindata.org, it's saying that around the 24th is when the United States took over the lead. And right now, the United States is sitting, I'm going to make sure I get to the right date, 64 million tests, and India is looking at 26 million tests, or almost
Yep.
27 million tests.
Yep.
And India has 1 billion people. So, yeah,
Yep.
they have to have a lot more tests. The fact that it's just a lie. Saying that Donald Trump resisted testing when you can see the graph, the ramp up of testing, you're just a liar, Kamala. And when you politicize people suffering, when you politicize their dying, it also makes you a scumbag. I'm sorry, it just does. It just does. I know people who have gotten sick from COVID-19, and to say that Donald Trump gave them that virus, unless you can show me video of him coughing on them, it's just a lie. It's just an absolute lie.
It's a lie. She's a liar.
It's a liar. And say that he flip-flopped on masks. He never flip-flopped on masks.
No.
You can go all the way back to May to find the first time that Donald Trump wore a mask in public. It was at an event. It was actually technically behind the scenes, probably in private, but there were photographers, so obviously it's public enough. The reason Donald Trump does not wear masks is because no one gets into the same room as Donald Trump unless they test negative using the Abbott 5-minute test. In order to get in the same room as him, you have to test negative. If you test positive, you're out.
Right.
Everyone he meets with tests negative. Why would you wear a mask if you know everyone around you is negative? The reason that the news reporters in their briefings wear masks is to make a political point. Because you look back a couple months ago when they thought the cameras were turned off, they were all ripping off their masks and giving each other hugs and spitting on each other's faces. They only wore the masks during the actual live broadcast. Same with Anthony Fauci. When he thinks the cameras are turned off, he takes off his mask. You see that at congressional hearings. We saw that at the baseball game that he attended, but it was too dangerous for anyone else to go to. He wore a mask when he was 60 feet away from the nearest person, when he was throwing out that horrible first pitch. But when he's sitting next to someone who's not from his household, his mask was off.
Correct.
It's a lie. It's a lie. When you say Donald Trump flip-flopped, he didn't. He just doesn't have to wear a mask because everyone around him is tested. Every time they get in the same room, they have to test negative. Suggesting that he should be wearing a mask is to suggest that you care more about the mask because it serves a purpose for social engineering and as a symbol than it does as actual utility.
Correct.
Right? If everyone's negative, no one needs to wear a mask.
Max, truth over facts. Listen, she's making contentions as if all of those things are settled, as if that is somehow settled science. It's not. It's not settled science. You can find, not on Facebook because Facebook doesn't allow it, but you can find dissenting opinions on the efficacy of masks. There was a story this morning that talked about N95 masks with one-way ventilators do nothing.
Well, you can't do that. You can't say that because that has been labeled fake news.
Okay,
you can't
fine.
make that argument.
Okay.
Even if it's true, we can't make the argument.
All right, fine. Listen, the point that I'm making is simple. All right? She believes this is the same stuff that happened with global warming, that's now climate change, right? That this is settled science. When there are literally scientists who disagree with your opinion, you don't just get to claim fact, right? That's actually your opinion. She's not telling the truth, right? Because she's stating things as facts that aren't actually facts.
They're not.
They're not facts.
Saying that an American dies every 80 seconds because of Donald Trump's actions is just not true.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is not to blame for a respiratory virus that came from China. And the people, I might get this off my chest because this has been pissing me off lately. The people calling this the Trump virus. It's not a Trump virus. There's two ways of naming viruses traditionally. You either name the virus after where it came from or was discovered or where the first outbreak was, or you name that virus after the first person discovered to have had it, or the scientist who discovered it. It's either named after a person or it's named after a place. Or I guess some other things have other names. But those are the two primary ways of doing it. The left is calling it the Trump virus because they want to do what Kamala Harris is doing. Every 80 seconds, someone dies from a respiratory disease, and it's Donald Trump's fault. But Donald Trump did not discover it. He did not have the virus. If it's the Trump virus, it's the first time in history a virus has ever been named after the political leader of the country that was the fourth one to record an outbreak. How does that make sense? The United States was the fourth country to report that we had someone in our country that had the virus. How does it make sense to name it the Trump virus? No, they're just doing it because they want to hurt him. All right? They're not naming after patient zero. They're not naming after the first scientist that deconstructed the genome. They're not naming after Wuhan. That's racist. Can't do it. Not naming after China. Racist. Can't do it. Can't call it Kung Flu. Very racist. Definitely can't do that. They're calling it the Trump virus. He was the president of the United States, the country that was the fourth one in the world to notice a case, and it's his virus. It's a lie. It's a lie, lie, lie. And they're doing it because they think they can get away with it, and they're doing it because they've poll tested this, and they know that blaming Trump for the virus works. They will politicize the death and suffering of people's loved ones and friends. if it means they'll win.
Yep.
These people are disgusting. They're disgusting. I'll say it again. We've gone through. We still have a few more to hit, but we've gone through. Please hit the share button. Hit the share button, hit the like button, and leave comments. Let's make sure that this fact check gets to more people, because we know the mainstream media sure as hell isn't doing it. Go ahead, Keith. I've talked enough.
No, you're 100% correct.
Let me take a breath.
Everything in the age of since 2016 has anything good that has ever happened is in spite of Trump, and anything bad that has ever happened is because of Trump. That's generally the theory of Democrats, right, and their voters, right? So it's always his fault. Heads I win, tails you lose. That's basically what we're saying, right? And all politicians, even the crap that the Congress scum Pelosi, everything that is good, she takes credit for, and everything that is bad is Donald Trump's fault, right? Yeah. So this is what's happening, because you're right, Max. It plays to their voter base. Their voter base is a bunch of people who live their lives as victims, right? They blame other people for their failures in life instead of owning them and solving whatever problem they need to solve, right? If you believe that government is your salvation, right? I've got some hard news for you. They're not. They don't care about you. They never will care about you. And even when they pretend to care about you, they will find a way to screw you at the end, right? You have people in your life that will support you. Some people have large support structures and some people have small support structures. But the government the government is at best a temporary solution to help you if you trip and fall, but they are not supposed to be the ones that carry you anywhere. But her voting base, the Democrats, right? They want the government to control everything. So every bad thing that happens, they can blame on Trump, right? I asked the question earlier and you laughed, right? Because it's a stupid question, because you know the answer, right? Yeah. The things they say they're going to do, they would never be able to do.
And they don't want to do it.
And they don't want to do it.
Reopen the economy.
Because the joke in 2016 was they hate Donald Trump so much that if somehow somebody cured cancer and he came out and they did a presser that they cured cancer, right? The Democrats would say, no, it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing that you've cured cancer.
All of a sudden they'd be followers of Darwin, followers of Malthus, saying the world's too populated. How dare you cure cancer?
Exactly.
Look at what Malthus wrote. If we don't kill people, we're going to overpopulate the world. How dare you? I never thought that I'd be able to quote Malthus on this show.
Well played.
Go ahead. But it's true. It's true. That's what they would say. They would find something against it. Donald Trump yesterday announced Middle East peace. He announced Middle East peace.
Yeah. Did you see that?
It wasn't just Israel. It wasn't just Israel and the UAE, right? Because today we learned that Bahrain is also joining it, and Oman is considering joining it. So other countries are joining it because they said we're tired. We're tired of the Palestinians causing so much trouble. Let's just work together. Donald Trump started the ball rolling on Middle East peace, and Joe Biden had a press conference saying that he deserves the credit. That's how twisted this has become. We're in clown world, people. Joe Biden has spent the last 6 months hiding in his basement, and he's trying to take credit for Donald Trump's Middle East peace agenda.
Donald Trump should just respond. He should just respond. You didn't build that. Joe Biden, you didn't build that.
Yeah. Of course he didn't. And the fact that I was watching CNN yesterday, and we were talking about this earlier, Keith, that there's the CNN challenge. Anytime you see a breaking news alert come out of your phone, turn to CNN. 99% chance they're not talking about it. Right? There was Middle East peace. I'm watching CNN, and all of a sudden you hear breaking news. This is CNN, and the breaking news comes across the screen, and then it says breaking news. Joe Biden just said everyone should wear a mask when they go outside. So there's Middle East peace happening, and this elderly man losing his mind, hiding in his basement, says everyone should wear a mask. That's their breaking news story. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. It really is incredible. We got a couple more we got to go through. We're going to go a little bit over today. Here's Kamala Harris blaming Trump for the fact that schools are closed and there's school uncertainty. Let's play cut 15.
It's why countless businesses have had to shut their doors for good. It's why there is complete chaos over when and how to reopen our schools. Mothers and fathers are confused and uncertain and angry about childcare and the safety of their kids at school, whether they'll be in danger if they go or fall behind if they don't.
So just got to make sure we understand. We've been talking a while in between clips. She's still blaming Donald Trump for all these things. This is still a run-on sentence with a bunch of commas and her blaming him for all this. It's not Donald Trump that stores and businesses were forced to close. That's the health officials at the local, state, and city level, right? It's not Donald Trump's fault. Already went through it. Saying that it's Donald Trump's fault that there's uncertainty about when schools will reopen. How is that true, Kamala, when your own state's teachers' unions are refusing to go back to school unless the police are defunded, unless Medicare for all is passed? That's not my words. That's straight from the teachers' unions. They are refusing to go to school, back to school to teach in parts of California unless police are defunded.
Yeah.
How is it Donald Trump's fault? That seems like it's our own partisan politics at play here.
Yeah.
How is it Donald Trump's fault?
Right. We're not going to go back to school and teach our job until there are 14 straight days of no COVID cases.
Yeah. Yeah. I was looking.
They said that
I
too.
I was looking, yeah. It's like you're not allowed to have a bar until there's a vaccine. Donald Trump's not saying that. Plenty of states are saying that. They're saying bars will not be allowed to reopen for regular service unless there's a vaccine. Donald Trump has never said that. So to say that it's Donald Trump's fault because bars have closed, which I'm extrapolating from that because she's blaming him for the businesses that closed, and bars are a business. To say it's Donald Trump's fault when it's other people making these health orders, it's just ludicrous. It's absolutely, absolutely ludicrous. I want to go ahead and play another clip. This is her accusing Donald Trump of driving the economy into the ground. This is actually one of the worst comments she made. Let's go ahead and play cut 16.
Trump is also the reason millions of Americans are now unemployed. He inherited the longest economic expansion in history. From Barack Obama and Joe Biden. And then, like everything else he inherited, he ran it straight into the ground.
False. False.
So when she says that it is the longest economic growth, no. What she actually should have said was the longest recovery from a recession. It took longer to recover from the recession that Obama inherited, because he did inherit it. It took longer to recover from that than any other economic downturn in the United States history. It's just, I just cannot believe it. And someone's saying that it's fake news. I'm sorry. I read the California Teachers Union. I think it was the LA Teachers Unions. Their memorandum that they put out. Keith, you were on the show when we talked about it.
Yes.
We put up the clip. We put up the actual screenshot of it. There is a teachers union in California. It's not right to say all of California, but there is a teachers union that has put out in written form that they will not go back to school until, among other things, police are defunded and universal Medicare for all is passed.
Yes.
Things are just not possible.
Correct.
So there's someone saying fake news. I live in California. That's so not true. We covered it. Go ahead and watch our other episode, and you'll see we put it up. I'm not gonna rehash that for you now. But when she says he drove the economy to the ground, it's just not true. It's just not true. I mean, like, the economy hit record highs when this all went down. The low of the stock market was still it might have gotten a little bit lower, but the low was still at or around or even above the high of Barack Obama's administration.
Yep. So
when you claim that Donald Trump drove the economy into the ground, when what they say the worst pandemic we've ever seen drove the stock market so low that it was still higher than Obama's high, is very, 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 very false.
I mean, just go back to the coverage, the pundit coverage of what the Democrats were going to have to do to win the presidency in November, December, and January of 2019 into 2020. And they were all talking about it's going to be really hard to dislodge the president because of the performance of the economy, because they were predicting that his campaign was just going to run on the success of the economy. Yeah. Trump said it the other day. It was like, the only way they can beat me is if they keep the economy closed.
Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing. That's pretty much what he said.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And here we have our last lie.
Oh, thank goodness.
I could have probably nitpicked a couple of things, but this is the last one. We kind of talked about it, but she said it again. This is Kamala saying that Donald Trump is responsible for worse economic outcomes than other countries. Let's play cut 17.
Because of Trump's failures of leadership, our economy has taken one of the biggest hits out of all the major industrialized nations, with an unemployment rate that has tripled as of today. This is what happens when we elect a guy who just isn't up for the job.
She said the same lie twice, Max.
Yeah. So we're going to put up the same image twice. Let's put up image number 1. This is straight from the White House, from Bureau of Economic Analysis, the CEA, and various other international statistical agencies, showing that under Donald Trump's leadership, and this is why we included this as a lie, Kamala Harris said out of all, what she said, developed nations?
Industrialized nations.
Industrialized nations. When she makes that claim, when she uses the word all means something. It's not true. And this graph shows that it's not true. The United States has had a shallower contraction than Austria, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Portugal, Spain, the entire European Union collectively, and the Euro area, if you want to use that. It's just a lie. And when she says that the unemployment rate is 3 times worse, what she's leaving out is that the unemployment rate is getting better every month, every week.
Right.
So she would have been able to say probably it was 4 times if she would have talked a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it's actually going down, she hates it. And you got to get that comment out now. So we rate it as false for Kamala saying that we have one of the worst economic outcomes of industrialized nations because it's provably false. And the fact that the European Union is seeing, 40% worse GDP decline roughly than us, we rate that as false. Sorry, Kamala, false. I know you didn't write that. Whoever wrote it for you is a liar, and you, by reading it, are a liar yourself. The claim, though, that Donald Trump, this is what happens when you elect someone who's not fit for the job. I think we can end it on this, that I cannot think of anyone less prepared for the job than someone who is explicitly picked because of their gender and because of their race. Mm-hmm. As we reported on this show, Joe Biden wanted to pick Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan. Actually, I would have loved for him to do that because she's a tyrant. She's a tyrant. Yeah. As we talked about on the show this week, her office has issued an executive order telling people to quarantine if they encounter someone with diarrhea. That's her office. If you encounter someone who has a headache, has a cough, or has diarrhea, among other symptoms, you're supposed to quarantine for 14 days. Mm-hmm. We talked about this on the show. It's an executive order right from her office.
Yep.
That woman's insane. That was that was Joe Biden's first pick. But she didn't get the job because his handlers told him he needs to pick someone who is a woman but also black. Mm-hmm. And she talks about Donald Trump being unfit to serve, but I cannot think of anyone less fit than someone who is picked for the job purely because of their melanin in their skin and the genitals between their legs. Keith, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah. Again, I think we're gonna watch this for the next 80 some odd days, right? Everything that comes out of her mouth, you will be able to find a clip within the last 12 months where she says the exact opposite.
Yep.
Everything that comes out of her mouth. And I watched spineless Chris Wallace try and fact check, right? Donald Trump, somebody from his campaign, right? They don't even have all the information. And he basically was like, oh, you're coming here. I understand you have to make your talking points. And the guy was like, no, have you read the 110-page policy positions from Joe Biden? I'm reading them, right?
Yeah.
The media is going to cover for their inadequacies, for the Democrats' ridiculous policy positions by just outright lying and doing what we've been talking about for the last couple of days, fact-checking things that go against their truth, their opinion, right? And whatever they decide is true today, they may decide the exact opposite is true tomorrow, but they'll get away with it, right? Because that's what the media's job is. Their job is to get Democrats elected so they can continue the party on our tax dollars. Don't let them do it.
Yeah. I like the comment from Sherry. Michael Jackson's monkey would make a better president. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think she'd be a better president than the monkey. But I'd also want to see what the monkey would bring to the table before I made that determination.
If he's got symbols, I'm in.
Yeah. Well, that maybe. Who knows? In interest of fairness, I'd like to put the monkey through its paces before I say Kamala Harris would do a better job.
Yeah, fair.
Just to be completely fair. So just to wrap up, the reason that we're doing this is because we were fact-checked this week for saying that Kamala Harris is not African-American, using a traditional definition of African-American, which says you have to be able to trace your lineage back to American slaves. The same reason that if someone comes to the United States from Africa and becomes a citizen, they typically are not hyphenated African American because it does not depict the entire heritage that their family can claim, right? Kamala Harris her father's Jamaican, so we made that claim. We were fact-checked for it. Our reach is being reduced artificially because of a fact-checker saying that no, you have to say she's black. You have to say she's black. If you say she isn't black, you're a liar. So the reason we're doing this is to basically call attention to how bogus the fact-checking is. So please, if you like this show, if you like this episode, hit that share button, hit the like button, leave some comments, because the only way we get out to more people is if you do that. Because of this fact check, we are being artificially throttled, and Facebook is artificially reducing the amount of people that watch our show. So that's why we've been so heavy on asking people to share. If you thought it was funny, if you enjoyed the content today, hit that share button and help us out. Well, that's going to be it for this edition of the Conservative Daily Podcast. Remember that you can download the podcast pretty much now everywhere podcasts are downloaded. Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Pandora soon. I think it's up. TuneIn. You got Spotify. What else? A bunch of other ones, all in the description. Make sure you sign up for our email newsletter in the description, because if we do eventually get taken off Facebook, you're going to want to get our email alerts so that you find out where we're going next. Go to Parler, follow us at Conservative Daily, all one word. Happy to follow you back if you do. We're on YouTube as well. That's growing. Follow us there. And yeah, just check out the links in the description. And if you like it, make sure you subscribe. And so again, my name is Max McGuire. Thank you to Keith Jones for filling in for Joe Otto as he is not feeling well today. Remember, everyone, that the fight to take back our country clearly isn't over, but the only way we win is if we all stand and fight together.